Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for being here. My name is Anna Zugari. I'm just a basic girl with a little extra. And if you have been with me in the last couple of weeks, you know the topic. But if you're new here, you are in for a great conversation. We're going to be talking about how to understand, empower, and not be afraid of teenagers. Because I am afraid a little bit of teenagers. You know, they're even taller than me, and the moodiness and all that good stuff. But it's. I have a teenager in the house, so this topic it's particularly important to me, and thinking about how can we make conversations that can remind us, because I forget, how to communicate, understand, and love onto our moody teenagers. I was like, who do I know? Who do I know? Oh, and I thought about my friend Jonathan. He is an amazing, amazing leader, and he's doing amazing things through Youth for Christ, and even at his home, with his own children. And but I don't want to take a lot of time talking myself, so I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce my friend Jonathan Frost. Click here. Yay. Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have something for you. Hold on, because I
Oh,
have this for my guests every time they come on. Ready?
that's
Confetti. So, because I'm so happy that you're here. So, thank you so much. Thank you for friends. If you're connecting with us and in the comments, please let us know. Marcus says hi, Jonathan.
hello.
Um, and just join us in the conversation, because it's gonna be really good. I have a lot of questions for you because you're an expert when it comes to teenagers and youth, right?
That terrifies me when you use that word, expert. I don't know
Can
if
you
you
tell
can
us?
be an expert with teenagers.
Right. I mean, if you have dropped for how many floors was Energy Stadium, I mean, you can totally
280.
handle teenagers, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about you, about this, and about what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Jonathan Frost. I'm the executive director at Youth for Christ Houston, and yeah, my history, I guess, is what you're talking about with your shirt. I moved to Houston in
Fan.
2001 to take a job with the Houston Texans, and I spent 14 years there as the team's mascot, Toro, the first mascot there.
Wow.
And so just through that, I fell in love with this city and the people, and um, by doing appearances all over the city, I got to know, just all the areas of the town, and we did school programs, so I was involved in schools all the time. And so, you know, it, when God called me to this ministry, it was pretty natural. It was a natural fit.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a wife and two kids. My wife is a dentist. We met at the Texans. She was actually don't tell anybody, but she was a cheerleader for the team. We weren't,
Okay.
but things happen. And
Right.
we've been married for 16 years now, and we've got a 13-year-old son, and we have a 10-year-old daughter. So we are very, very blessed.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And you have a beautiful family. Yes, that I so you and I actually have partnered before. When I was doing children's ministry, you were very generous in coming out there and help us try to figure out what we were doing
Yeah.
with all this. Because as I said, I would say I know how to handle children, but right at 12, 13, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Right.
And right, so you came and visit and tell us a little bit on how to manage the teenagers that we were receiving, because there were all kinds of, like, from 12 to 18 we had one time. So that was wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about Youth for Christ now? Like, how,
Yeah.
what is it, the organization, in what do you do there?
Yeah, so Youth for Christ has actually been around for a long time. It's been around since 1944.
Wow.
Started up in the Chicagoland area and then moved across the country. And so now we are in, I think, 130 different cities across the US and over 100
Wow.
countries. So just God has blessed that ministry. I came into it in 2016. When we had just started ministry here in Houston. So evidently there was ministry here with Youth for Christ in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when we were on
Mhm.
campuses doing ministry. And it faded out towards the end of the 90s. And so there was a concerted effort to get back into Houston in 2015, 16. And so when we came into the city, um, they, I wasn't on staff yet, so I say we, but when they came into the city, they really did like what they called a listening tour, and they just were listening to city leaders and church leaders and business leaders and just people in the community saying, we know there's a lot of good youth ministry that happens in Houston, but is there a place that may be being missed? And we started going through our different models. Well, one of those models that we have is juvenile justice ministry. So working with kids who are in the juvenile justice system, inside detention centers, outside with mentoring. And when that one was brought up, almost everybody they talked to was like, that's where we need help here in Houston. And at the time, I think there were 13,000 kids or 13,000 detentions each year at the time, just for Harris County, not the other counties. And so it was
Right.
just, there was a lot, and there were a lot of kids that just needed some help. And well, we'd been doing that since the 60s. So as God does, he takes something that we knew well, and he
Mhm.
takes need and he kind of put them together. And so that's where we started in 2016. Um, as you can imagine, when COVID hit, we were going and blowing and seeing lots of kids. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden we were not allowed to be in those facilities, as was no one else.
Wow.
And so for over a year, we really sat and worked on strategy. We were
Mhm.
like, okay, let's be prepared for when it opens back up. And in the middle of that, I brought on a new ministry director who's been a youth pastor for 20 some years and he's phenomenal. And we really started brainstorming, getting started in another ministry model that we have called Campus Life for junior high and for high
Mhm.
schools. And so in 2022, so not this, or 22, we started our first Campus Life site in Manville, Texas, down past just south of Pearland. And
Okay.
started meeting with kids. Last year, we opened up the 2 junior highs that feed into that high school. And we have seen the school district has just opened up, and we have all the schools in Alvin asking us if we're coming to them next. And so it's just this opportunity right now to meet kids before we see them in a juvenile facility,
Mhm. Mhm.
meeting them when they're starting to make those decisions that could end up there, and just trying to intervene at that point. Because the kids that God really calls us to, I mean, we love kids who already know Christ and we want to disciple them, but we're
Right.
really called to lost kids who
Yeah.
are having some struggles at home or just struggles other places. And um, those are our kids. I mean, those are the kids that we just love on and we want to be there for and show them that God has a hope for them. He's got a plan for them. They are not a mistake, and so right now we are working in Galveston County and Harris County with juvenile justice. And we're working in Brazoria County in the Manville area specifically with Campus Life. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we do have 2 other schools that have called that actually may work out in the near bit, and they're not in
Wow.
that. They're in
Mhm.
of greater Houston. So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so it's exciting times.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a tremendous work, and it's, like you said, it's necessary. And yeah, there's a lot of, I see a lot of churches with youth programs and things like that, but you're going out there and getting those kids that are not coming to churches, that are not in a stable, environment. And that is a tremendous job. And so, as I mentioned before, we're talking this month about how can anybody, and not just parents, but adults, I feel like we have the responsibility to be models, and also care for or youth, adolescents, and in all areas, not just in our homes. And so as you're out there, what do you think are the biggest struggles that the teenagers are facing right now at this time? And I know there is a lot of variance, the economic
Right.
sphere and all that kind of stuff. But
And there is, but I think there's some commonalities amongst just that age group, no matter where they're
Mhm.
coming from, and especially in this time and age. Um, I would say just identity right now is a big deal.
Mhm.
I think it has been for teenagers for years. You're still trying to figure out who you are, but I think that's even harder right now with the world trying to tell them that there are so many things you can be. Uh,
Mhm.
um, so they're trying to figure that out, and a lot of times they don't have guidance in that. So it
Yeah.
can be a confusing time, and they another thing is they lack a lot of self confidence, you know,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so if you don't know who you are and you're lacking self confidence, where do you go? And so, I mean, the other thing I would say is just direction. You
Mhm.
know, they don't know what they could be or where they want to go or what they want to do, and so it's just this time of trying to figure things out, which provides a great opportunity for those of us who want to invest in them,
Mhm.
because if we can build trust with them and gain that access to them, then we can give that advice, and so that's a good place to be. It's a good
Yeah.
place to be. I'd also say that, just specifically to this time period, coming out of COVID, the isolation that teenagers felt, I mean, all of us did.
Yeah.
But in a formative time when you're trying to figure out who you are, your identity is in your friends a lot of times and all this, and now you're not with them. And so, unfortunately, through that, suicide rates have just skyrocketed. Isolation has caused some really tough things. So, kids are trying to navigate all of that right now. And in fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was saying, when I was 15, I could not wait to turn 16 because I knew I got my license. In fact, I was begging my parents, "Can I please stay home from school so I can go get my license?" Like, I could not wait. And
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of kids don't get their license at 16 right now. And it's confused me forever. I've been like, why in the world? Until somebody, and it may have been Brandon, our ministry director, but he said, why do they need a license? All of them connect now on social media and on FaceTime and on other social apps. That
Mhm.
is their communication. So they don't have a need to get out and go. So there's just this, but it pinpoints like how different the world is right now. And
Mhm.
I know they don't know this, but I am a firm believer that you have to be with people physically to really build strong relationships,
Right.
have that sense of being and being part of something. And so I think that's a struggle too, is that the world tells them they don't need to be around people. They can just talk to people online, you
Yeah.
know, and that's hard.
Yeah, so it's so interesting because I had the same conversation a few days ago with one of my bosses, and she was telling me about this article that she read, that, yeah, the numbers on getting licenses are down. Like, people
Crazy.
are not going to get licenses, drive licenses, because either that, and we didn't thought about what you're saying, using the social media platforms to communicate. But what she mentioned that she read in that article is that they much rather Uber everywhere, have somebody to drive them around,
Oh, wow.
than driving. And I'm like, wait, what? And like, I remember, like you, like, I didn't get my license until I was 18,
Yeah.
but because we didn't have a car.
Right.
So, I couldn't. But I'm like, I was just desperate. Like I can't wait until I start driving for independence and just going everywhere. And even like, Mom, do you need anything from the grocery store? Like,
Right. Can I please go out?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
That's
nowadays,
crazy because
yeah,
I don't know a lot of kids. I mean, I guess they better have a good job to be able to Uber around. It's
exactly,
not cheap. That's for sure.
exactly,
My kid
exactly.
asked
I'm
me if
like,
he could Uber. I'd be like, no, you can go
right,
study and get a license because I
exactly.
have errands for you to run too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think it's just crazy, crazy. And I do, I can see that. And, like you mentioned, it's so sad, like the suicide rate that you mentioned too. And I'm like, what are we doing to our children? Like how, so this is where it comes, like my questions and my thinking, because I had a group of girls the other day, with my daughter, and we were in the kitchen and having fun and stuff. And one of them said, like, oh, I'm pregnant because, she ate too much. And I'm like, oh my gosh, then I'm super pregnant because look at me, I'm so fat. And we just started, you know, uh, just chit chatting and stuff. And then one of them, she was like, Miss Anna, what would you do if one of us came and say, like, I'm pregnant, I need help? And I was like, okay, wow. And so first, it kind of shocked me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Mhm.
no. And but I opened the conversation. I was like able to, like, okay, Anna, just keep it cool.
Yeah.
And started the conversation and say, like, hey, listen, having a baby is not a mistake. It's the way, what happens around that, and all the responsibilities that come with that. But just know that our door is always open. And then last week, when I had a youth pastor and a teacher, I sent out on a survey, and I was surprised that I got responses, because I wanted to hear what they had to say, the teenagers.
Yeah.
And they responded to me, and I didn't think of that. But the Jackie Moore, the teacher that we had, she's like, Anna, I just want to say that you're a safe person because they responded to your questions. And I was like, oh yeah, you're
And
right.
so what a privilege.
Yeah, exactly. So like what you're doing, your Wednesday evenings, spending this time with these kids, uh being that safe adult for them, and that they can come and ask you questions. What do you think for other parents and other people that are like, oh, that's weird? Like, how do I start something like that? And oh, let me just check on the comments. We have Marcus saying, in Europe, we don't get the license before 18, but we are allowed to drink earlier. Oh my goodness.
Well, Marcus, unfortunately, with a lot of the kids we work with, they also get to drink earlier. It's just not legal. Um,
Right.
so that happens too. But I think you're right in the way you approach kids and being approachable, just being allowed to, or allowing them to come talk to you without judgment. Because judgment's not going to change them right then. What's going to change them is you showing that you trust them, or that they can trust you enough to share things with you.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, they're going to take your advice better later. So like in a situation, I think you handled that well. We actually have a ministry model in Youth for Christ called Parent Life, and it's working with pregnant and parenting teens, and even boys who are the boyfriends, and talking about being a father. And you know but the thought of that is, yeah, is it ideal for you to have had a child without marriage covenant, without a husband, and all that? Is it ideal? No, it's not. Is it God's plan? It's not. But God also doesn't make mistakes, and babies aren't mistakes. you know
Right.
so God has a plan for that baby, and God has a
Mhm.
plan for that girl and that boy, if they choose to live into that. And so it's talking to them about, okay, so this happened. Maybe we talk about trying to not let it happen again right now, you know,
Right.
but we talk about, okay, so now what? What does God say about this?
Mhm.
How can we use this to honor him, even though it happened? Because it's already happened. So how do we
Right.
take and honor him through it? And how can we raise this kid in a way that they're going to know him, and have a different lifestyle maybe than some of the kids that we are having kids that didn't grow up hearing about Christ, So I think it's the way that you approach kids and are willing to listen to them. So I think that's a big deal. Yeah. You asked about how people get started doing this. I don't know, Anna. The way our Wednesday. So I got just so anybody else who's listening, I started a Wednesday night Bible study on my back patio by accident. We took some of the kids with us to camp with YFC. They're not part of YFC, but we had some extra space, and I was like, well, why don't we invite some of the kids that my son knows in our neighborhood? And so they came, and then afterwards I thought, you know what, we should probably debrief camp just so they understand kind of what had happened. And we did that one Wednesday night and had such a good time. I just said, would you guys want to do this like on Wednesday nights? We just get together and chat. And all of them, every single one goes, oh, that'd be fun. And so here I am now buying snacks and throwing them out on the table. And then we sit around the back patio. And I mean, luckily we have curriculum through YFC. So I just grabbed some. I'm the executive director. I work with adults mostly. So it's a little even outside of my comfort zone leading something like this. But it's so funny to know that I don't have to be very prepared. I can go in, I can read some stuff, ask them to look some stuff up. We have questions, they share, and we pray together and we end. I mean, it's not hard.
Right.
It's the craziest thing.
I'm always opening the space.
Yeah. And I'm always nervous about it. Like Monday, Tuesday, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to get ready. I got to get ready. And then I'm thinking about it and it can almost at times feel like a chore until I'm sitting down with them.
Yeah.
It is like the biggest blessing to know that they want to be there and they want to listen. And it's just so cool. And like I said, it was on accident. Well, not accident. I mean, it was God ordained, but an accident to step into it.
Right.
Such a blessing. Yeah.
Hello, Fish Stick USA. Thank you so much for being here. You got right here on time on the conversation. Yeah. So, it's just, I guess, just the willing and the opening the space and the opportunity for communication and gathering and ministering, right? Like, so I love that you said that, because I think I shared before we started the stream that one of my concerns is like, well, I didn't go to seminary and I'm not like, very knowledgeable on how to do the study. But everybody can do a Bible study, right? Like just follow the guide and do it. And I know that a lot of times, it more than the theology is just the conversation on having that connection with them and just being safe so they can ask questions that they not normally do. And like in my case, my daughter goes to a Christian school, so the prayer and the huddle time for Bible studies is there. But I was telling her during the summer, like, oh, we should do like game night and just connect with all the kids, like once, every 2 weeks or so, because like you said, it might become a chore, or that you think it's a chore. And because we adults are, we have jobs and all of the other things that have to take priority in some cases. But I think you're right. It's just opening the space for them, right?
Yeah, and even in that case, when you say like jobs and stuff, I mean, we do have to be prepared. When we go into a meeting in a job scenario, we should have gotten ready and made sure we're prepared and all that. Kids aren't like that. Like we think they are, because we look at them and think, oh, I've got to, everything that I do outside of here is I need to be ready for. Kids are not, I hate to say this, kids are not used to adults making time for them, especially now, especially when all of us are connected to our phones constantly. How often, I mean, I've got mine sitting right here. How often are you talking to your daughter, and going like this, going, yeah, oh, that's so awesome. I love that you did that. Really? That's cool. And she said that, like I do that. I do it all the time. And I catch myself and go, my son actually wants to speak to me right now. What am I doing? Right. And so if I can remember it, I'll set my phone down and be like, oh, let me put that away. And I try not to let him know that I'm doing that on purpose, because then I might lose him. I might lose him. But I think with kids, I think a lot of adults are afraid of how to act around them. How do I
Mhm.
connect with a teenager who I don't know much about them, and or where they're coming from, or it really
Mhm.
doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Kids right now, or kids at any age, just want to be heard. They wanna
Mhm.
know that you were intentional and actually gave them your time.
Yeah.
And if you're always willing, even if they turn away and say, I don't wanna talk to you right now." Okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm always willing and available when that time comes that they need to talk, they know they can turn to you and you will put everything aside and listen. And if we could
Yeah.
ever learn, I'm talking to myself too, if we could ever learn to just shut our mouths
Yeah.
and let them
Mhm.
talk and really
Yeah.
try to hear them and really try to hear what's going on,
Mhm.
what's causing them to think like that, and then
Mhm.
say, "Would you like some advice?"
Mhm.
Not just give it to them because that's what
Right.
they're expecting. But if you say, "Would you like me to be praying for you?
Mhm.
Or would you even like to hear what I would do if I was in your situation?"
Mhm.
Giving them
Ask
the chance,
questions. Yeah.
yeah, and giving them the chance to actually say, "Yeah, I would. I'd like what would you do?" You know?
Yeah.
Well, now you've gotten permission to give the
Mhm.
advice, and it's I think we underestimate the Holy Spirit and, underestimate him.
Yes.
We don't have
Yeah.
to have answers. We just have to be there available. And when they ask or when there's that opportunity, he can speak through us. I
Mhm.
mean, we talk about that all the time at church, but do we
Mhm.
really believe that he does? I think he
Yeah.
does all the time if we're willing to just put ourselves in the right situation.
Yeah.
So I think if parents and adults who have a heart for kids or just want to connect would just make it obvious that they're there for the kids and that
Mhm.
they're not there to tell you what to do. I'm not distracted because the TV's on. Um, I mean, how about this? I can challenge all of us, even myself. When a kid comes in to talk to you and your phone and your TV's on, we have
Mhm.
the neat opportunity now. Not back when I was a kid, we couldn't do this, but now you can pause TV.
Yeah.
What would
It's
it
true.
mean to them if you actually pause TV
Mhm.
and turn towards them and
Right.
you just look at them and say, "What's going on? What do you need to talk about?"
Yeah. Yeah.
It would make a huge difference. And so
Mhm.
there's no magic sauce to working with kids. It's just
Yeah.
being available for them, letting them know
Yeah.
that you're always there when they need you and that you will take the time to listen to them.
Yeah, I love what Fishstick USA is saying. Listening is key to fellowship, especially with children, teens, older people, anyone who might be feeling alone. And that's true. That's true.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So, I've been taking therapy for a while, and the therapist used to tell or it says often like awareness, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do you mean with that? Like, what is that awareness? And now that I know it, it's like, okay, yes. And this weekend that I flew to Virginia to be with my other daughter and my son-in-law and my other daughter from another mother,
Yeah.
we were just like having fun and playing cards and stuff. And then on the way back, I was asking my youngest, and I'm like, they used to tell me a lot, Mom, you're not listening. Mom, you're not listening. Mom, you're not listening. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I am listening. No, no, you're not. And you interrupt us a lot. And so when we came back, I asked her, um, so how was my communication? Like, and Emma was like, wow, you listened
That's
to all
awesome.
of us. And I was like, yay.
That's awesome. You know what? As you're saying that, I just got really convicted. We have something in our family that we tell our kids all the time, and boy, I need to hear it too. We tell them all the time, we ask them and say, when you go to school, what do you use to listen to your teacher? What do you use? And the answer is your eyes. You use your eyes to listen because that's where you're directing your attention. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, boy, I'm convicted right now. How often am I listening like this? You know, um,
Right. Yeah.
my
So, but it's a good practice. Like I said, the awareness, and I'm like, okay, we're playing cards, but I'm listening and I'm watching the dynamics, and you know, they're very competitive, and they're like, it was my turn, and then you cheated, and I love. I enjoy that moment so much. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like in the past, I was like, yeah, he cheated. And, like I was like all into it. But
It's always Mickey.
now, huh?
It's always Mickey, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know him. Oh my gosh, no. It's actually me, but that would be me. But also, it's that attention, like you're saying, and the eye contact, and acknowledging what is happening, and sometimes she will tell me stuff and I receive it with my understanding, right? And then I come back with my understanding and she's like, "Nope, that's not what I said. You're just twisting all my words." And it's so communication is kind of like a big deal, right? Like
Huge deal.
understanding. Yes, but
And so, if you don't mind, I want to take us outside of the house and outside of our just influence just for a second, because I was just reminded of something. Um, we've been talking about being a parent or
mhm.
working with kids that we know and stuff like that. I think there last thing I saw, there were 40 million 11 and 19-year-olds in the United States or something like that.
Wow.
And the studies show that I think it takes 5 positive adult role models to help them be successful, whatever the way they determined the success or whatever.
Mhm.
Of 40 million kids in the United States, I think 22 million or 24 million don't have one single person
Oh
in
my
their life
gosh.
play that role in the
Wow.
United States. And so if we think about the fact that a lot of the kids that we work with, especially in juvenile detention, are
Mhm.
coming out of situations where there are no adults to trust. Like
Mhm.
they don't they don't trust adults. They don't have a reason to trust adults because adults have always let them down or have abused them or hurt them in some way. And so one of the easiest things I tell our new mentors or new volunteers in juvenile justice is I was like, the first and best thing you can do is show up. Show
Mm.
up every time.
Mhm.
When you say, "Hey, I'll be here next week at 2," you show up at 1:45 and you're waiting at 2. If
Yeah.
you do that consistently, they may not talk to you for 6 weeks. They may want nothing to do with you, but you'll see them starting to show up to see, are you really going to do what you say?
Mm.
And it's amazing that the trust can start that early by just that easy thing just to show up. Just show up. And
Mhm.
and then after that, it's when they start wanting to talk to you, be willing to listen and just share and talk. At Youth for Christ, we do ministry in a specific way that we call 3-story ministry. If you don't mind, I'll share that real
Oh,
fast.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So our shirt, I don't know if you can see my logo, but it's got 3
Mhm.
circles on it. So
Yeah.
it's God's story, my story, and then someone else's story. And the idea
Um,
is, if I abide in Christ daily, or if I volunteer and abides in Christ daily and spends time getting to know him and studying his word and praying, the more of his circle envelops mine. It just becomes a
mhm,
part of mine, right? So
mhm,
now when
right.
I go into a relationship with someone else, I inherently take him with me. I
Yeah.
don't have to go in with a book or Bible and say, I want to tell you about this guy I know. He's awesome. Well, a kid who doesn't trust an adult or has never been to church or has the wrong idea of Christians and church, they want nothing to do with that.
Mhm.
But somebody who comes in and actually over time shows them that they're not there to get anything from them, they're actually there to help them, they're
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for them.
Mhm.
You can show that over time, and you've got God with you, so that in the conversations that you're having with them, and they start asking questions about you, and you start sharing your story. Well, I've got a wife, and I've got 2 kids, and we met and here, and then we immediately we started going to church together and all this, and you just mentioning your life and how God's just in your life, and so as you're talking about it, you're going to talk about God. You don't have to be so full,
Hitting them with the Bible, right.
because if they learn that they can trust you and they learn that maybe what I've learned about Christians isn't exactly right, because if you're saying you're a Christian, I actually like you. I've often said how fun it would be if we did the same thing in juvenile justice with police officers, that
Oh, yeah.
and it was just John or Felix or whoever it was. It's just
Mhm,
a guy or a
mhm,
girl, and they just loved on the kids and loved on them, and it has consistency. And then after 6 months, when they're like, "So what do you do?" They're like, "Oh, I'm a police officer."
Mhm.
Those kids who've grown up to look at police officers as bad, or police officers are always out to get me because they're the ones who come and make me go to detention. And well, now you've just shifted something. They're like, I'm
Right.
struggling. They're like, hold on, I like this guy.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just this. So if we could do
Yeah.
the same thing as Christians and just take God in with us and
Mhm.
just show them love and be open
Right.
and willing and just show up. It's really pretty easy. Now,
Mhm.
is it intimidating? Yes. The
Mhm.
first time I went into a detention center, I'll be honest with you, I was terrified. I was bowed up like
Mhm.
I needed to be, and I don't know why, but because I'm not very big, but I, had this.
Right.
And then once I've gotten to know kids, and they have a tough exterior because guess what? They have to survive where they're growing
Mhm.
up.
Mm.
When they can let that down because they feel safe, guess what? They just become kids.
That's
They're
yeah.
just kids.
Oh.
And
Mhm.
they're wonderful, and they have talents, and
Mhm.
and they may not have dreams right now, but boy, you can talk about what to dream, helping them
Right.
figure out what's God got for you. Where's
Mhm.
that place what do you love doing? How could you turn that into a career and enjoy life? And so anyway, I'm getting way off topic, but
No,
I
I think
I
you're
get
right
I get
on.
I get excited about this, so
Yeah, no, and it's like I said, it's a ministry that it's needed out there, and sometimes also because we're in our bubble, we don't think and we don't know the struggles of other teenagers that are out there that are fatherless or even orphans, and they're just trying to survive, like you said, with a grandma or
Yep.
uncles or relatives, or they're not being really directed or taken care of, and that's where we all adults need to learn these things and be conscious about it and be aware of what's happening.
Can you imagine being 12 or 13 years old and it's safer to stay out on the street overnight than it is to be at your house?
Oh my god.
I mean, that's the reality of a lot of kids in Houston, and
Mm,
it's sad,
mm,
but it should prompt us, right, to
yeah,
step into those lives.
yeah.
We have kids who that's why they get in trouble bec-
Hmm.
because when you're out on the streets with your buddies at 2 a.m., good thing. My mom always said, good things don't happen after dark.
Exactly.
So get home.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
when you have a home where you're being abused, or there's the chance that you may get beaten that night because your mom or dad comes home and they've been drinking, and
Yeah.
at 47 years old, I wouldn't be there either.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so yeah, it's just the reality of kids out there. And I would ask a lot of people, where are the detention centers in Houston? Do you know?
Mm. I have no idea.
Right?
I have
No,
no idea.
nobody knows. I mean, they're public. You can know where they are.
Mhm.
Nobody knows because, like you said, we're in our bubbles. And
Mhm.
unless we go out there purposely to try to help and find those kids, or be part of that, it can be very easy to have it out of sight, out of mind, and just
Yeah.
kids are kids. And the kids I know, this is how
Right.
kids growing up are. And I
Mhm.
and I fell into that before I got into this job. I mean, I knew what it was like to be a teenager. In fact, Brandon took me to the high school one morning really early, and we showed up with signs to just say, "Hey, have a great day" or whatever. And we were inside, and
Mhm.
it's so funny. I thought, well, I remember high school. I know what this is like. People
Mhm.
were walking in, and we're standing there out, and the doors open, and all these kids just start flooding in. And you're talking about a school of 3,500 kids.
Oh my
And there's
gosh.
just kids just coming.
Yeah.
Almost everyone has AirPods in or earpods.
Mhm.
All of them are looking at their phone. It's dark. They're walking in with backpacks on, and you're like sitting there, like trying to be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Mhm.
And you get like three responses. Some of them get really excited just because they're that kind of kid. They're like, "Oh, what's
Yeah.
up? What are you doing?" High
Mhm.
five. That's cool.
Mhm.
Then you got the kids who look up and they kind of like they acknowledge you. Like,
Mhm. Okay.
"Hey,
Mhm.
what's up? Yes." And then you got the kids that made me feel like I was in high school again because they look at you. They did this. It was so funny. They look at you and go, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I feel like I'm in high school again." Like this awkward. And I talked to Brandon afterwards, and I told him all about it, and he goes, "Man, you got to embrace the awkward because
Mhm.
the high five that you gave, the knuckle bump that you gave, that is, for many of those kids, that was the first physical contact they've had all day long so far this day.
Yeah.
It was just a positive, hey, I see you. Hey, I'm on your side. And I was like, that's tough. We need to tell our volunteers that, because I was intimidated, and I'm supposed to be running this thing. I just am not
Right.
as much. So I was like,
Yeah.
we got to, I love his phrase, embrace the awkward,
Right.
because they're worth it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we can be awkward. It's
Yeah.
okay.
That's
So
true.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of happens to me because everybody's taller than me.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
those
hey, I'm not much
12,
older
13
than you.
years
So,
old. Oh my gosh. I'm like, hey, what's
oh,
up?
I'm already at the middle school and junior high, and they're talking to me, looking down at me. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then now the new lingo, I have to ask
Okay.
Emma
Well,
all the time.
as an adult, you just don't do it.
Oh my
My
gosh.
son told me over and over, don't do it. Just
Yeah.
don't use it. Use whatever you know what to use.
I
Just
was
do
like,
that.
no cap.
Yeah, you're like, no,
Stop.
no, stop.
Stop.
Do it. Well, for one thing, we can never keep up because it changes every day.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you know what? I've really learned about kids. They can smell a fake so fast.
Yeah.
If you just go in and are just
That's true.
genuinely you know
Yeah.
what? Most of the time they're going to like you,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can tell when someone's genuine.
Uh-huh.
You know when somebody's trying to fake it or put on an air or try to act different than they normally would,
Yeah.
and they don't want any part to do with that. So
That's
if you
true.
just go in and you just
Yeah.
genuine, and you make mistakes and you laugh it off, and go,
Right.
yeah, sorry, I'm old.
You're
Like
right.
they're
Yeah.
like, and it's fine. You move
Yeah.
on.
That's what I tell him. I'm just basic. So you're stuck with a basic mom.
That's just who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, we around the teenagers that I have, I feel like they're pretty awesome kids, and the intention is there. But yeah, having those tips that you mentioned, and also just getting outside my bubble and thinking about, I live in Magnolia. So when you tell me these numbers, and like, oh yeah, I've never thought about it. I know there was a
Right.
center in Bel Air. I think it was on Chimney Rock, a juvenile center.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't know if it's still there,
Still
but
there. Yep.
so
BBRC.
yeah, so it's sad. It's really sad. Um, let's see. This is very encouraging. I teach in Sunday schools, teens, a small church with 9. Well, you're doing a tremendous job. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
stepping up.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Guess
appreciate
what?
you so much.
Guess what? I have 4 or 5 that are sitting around a table with me in the evening on Wednesday nights, and
Yeah,
my prayer is that it's going to make a difference, even if it's not this second.
right, right.
So just keep
Yeah,
at it.
yeah. And it says 80% of the people are over 75 years old. And that's good because we need wisdom.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and you know what? That brings up a point. I have had so many people who are retired who say to me, "Well, I could never mentor because the kids aren't going to want like me there. I'm too old and all this." And I tell them, I'm like, "Do you know how many of these kids are being raised by grandparents? You are just an adult to them.
Yeah.
They're used to that. In fact, they may feel more comfortable with you than they do a 30-year-old because they're
Exactly.
just not around that very much."
Mhm.
So, to be honest, that could be amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you, I grew up in a church. My dad was a minister. He was at one point when I was really little, he was the senior adults minister, and I had
Mhm.
7 grandparents, and it
Mm.
was amazing. I was
Mhm.
spoiled absolutely rotten. So, man, take advantage of
Yeah.
that age
Yeah.
and just love on these kids.
Right.
And
And like all the stories that they have to share. Oh my gosh. I've seen that, when older people start sharing stories, the kids are like, no way. Was that, what?
like,
So,
let me tell you what life was like before cell phones.
right.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you what it was like to go to your house and try to call somebody and they weren't there. So you went running through the whole neighborhood to see
Right.
who could play because there was no other way to get a hold of them, you know?
Exactly, exactly. That's so fun. Well, this has been really awesome. I think we went a little over time, but I still want to have like 3 more minutes of fun. Are you up for it? I have
Sure.
some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, okay. All right. Give it a shot.
This,
Remember, I spent 14 years not allowed to talk, so I'm going to do my best.
yeah, no, you're fine. Let me. put my technology to work. So we're going to see what the wheel says.
Uh-oh.
Football or baseball? That was kind of like a dumb question, right?
That's a softball question. Yeah, yeah, I am definitely all football.
Awesome. And did you ever play?
I
Yes.
I started to play my 7th grade year, didn't realize they didn't have the right that helmets had come in different sizes. So every time I got tackled, it rattled around and I had a headache after every practice, so I quit. I
Oh,
didn't play again until my senior year of high school, and I loved it. And I wish I had played. So yeah, I did play a little bit.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Fish Six USA. I'm over 60-year-old. I was surprised that the pastor and mom said teens really like me as their teacher. Who wouldn't like you? Who would
Absolutely.
not like you?
My mom is as well. She teaches Sunday school. She was a children's minister, and I've never seen kids who love someone so much. I'm very blessed to have a
Yeah.
mom and dad that I do, but so I'm very biased, but no joke.
Yeah.
She was a teacher. She won all kinds of awards. The age doesn't matter. It's the
Mhm.
heart. It's your heart.
Exactly.
You really care for them. Are you there? Like, yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
awesome. You're doing
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Keep it up. Okay, we're gonna go with one more question. Your friends in the chat, let us know. Play with us. Play with us and put your answers in the chat. Your most embarrassing moment in middle school.
Oh, I I have one. I just thought of it. I haven't thought of it in a long time. So I had 3 girlfriends in one day, not at the same time. And
Okay.
it was a plot by all 3 of them to see if they could do it. And so it had nothing to do with me, and it was extremely embarrassing because, of course, I
Oh
was,
my,
"Okay, sure, I'll be your boyfriend," and then
they
they broke up
use
with me.
you.
And then the other one came up and goes, I was like, "Yeah, I'll be your" yeah. That was very embarrassing.
Oh my gosh.
Middle school girls can be mean.
Early bird or night owl?
What's funny is I can be either one. It really depends on what's going on. If I have something that I'm really interested in watching or doing at night, or something, but I can also get up and I like mornings. So
Mm.
with me. Now, not the same night.
Right, right. Oh, I don't have the energy. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. One more. At what age did you start driving? Well, this one didn't kind of count because you said, right, at
Yeah. But it
16?
was like 16 and 0 days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you were like ready.
Oh, I was so ready.
I got
I still
mine
remember the first place I drove. Like I can remember all that. Yeah.
really, me too. And this particular thing, because I got my license like around, when I got out of school. And then my mom asked me, go get your brother. And I went to get my brother from school and came back and I drove through the median. And my brother, he was like 8 years old, right? And he was like, I can't believe you just got your driver's license.
That's awesome.
Embarrassing. Where would you relocate if you were forced to leave the country?
Oh, I thought you meant in the country, to leave the country. I guess
Yeah.
Hawaii doesn't count because that's still the country, because that's one of my favorite places on earth. Man, that's tough.
Mhm.
I would probably say it would be some kind of tropical island somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
I've traveled to some, so I'd probably hit one of the ones I know or maybe near there. I spent a
Yeah.
semester on the Turks and Caicos Islands and loved it there. It was gorgeous.
Oh, that's what they say, that's amazing. I've never been.
If you like water stuff, I was there for marine biology, and so the water's 100-foot visibility every day. It's like a
Wow.
bathtub. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. No, I'm a mountain person.
Yeah.
Not much,
I love the mountains too. I grew up in the mountains, but I'm thinking
really.
outside the country. I haven't been to a lot of mountains outside the country. Well, I have. Banff in Lake Louise, Canada is gorgeous.
Really.
It's cold, so
Yeah. Well, I like cold places, especially right now.
yes, right now. I'll do
Oh,
108 right now.
Right. Well, Marcus, I know you're a night owl. I mean, like seriously, I can't believe you're up right now. Um,
Where's
I would,
Mark?
yeah, Marcus is in Switzerland.
Oh my goodness, talk about mountains.
Yes.
There you
So,
go.
Marcus, is that right? Did I
Yes, I
get it
want to
right?
visit. I've always wanted to go. I plan on doing that one day.
Yeah. So that's probably where I will move, just to be a neighbor to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for him. I know, right? So thank you so much, friend, for doing that and staying up with us. I appreciate your support and friends that been in the chat. And if you're watching the replay later, I hope this conversation bless you and that you find helpful tips of how to connect with teenagers and also get a little bit of conviction and get out there and find a teenager that you can talk to and listen to more than talk to,
Right.
you know and if they want to connect, if you want to connect with Jonathan and see all the things that they're doing, let me see, I think I put right here the website. Go
Yep.
visit the website. I put it in the chat, and it will be also all the ways to connect with him. He's on Facebook and Instagram, right? And the website.
So, yes.
And
I don't run those, but yes.
right. Well, to connect with Youth
They're
for
there.
Christ.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
If you
And
want more
we need
information,
volunteers. So if you're in the Houston area and you're ready to give it a shot with these kids and love on them and
please
just
do.
bring the heart of Christ to them. But at the same time, Marcus, I'm almost absolutely positive that there is a YFC Switzerland. So look them up. They're
Yes.
there. I'm
Yeah.
almost positive.
Okay. Well, Marcus, you have a big opportunity there. Well, again, friends, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here next Thursday. I'm going to have book author. And she's gonna talk to us about her book. Loud is not a language, and Miss Cox, that's her last name, and she is going to walk us through the content of the book and how does that help us to communicate with teenagers when we're losing it. So, Jonathan, friend, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this and spending your evening with me. I know you have family and to connect with, so I really appreciate you being here.
It's a privilege, and you know how much I care about you and Mickey. So thanks for
Thank
let me be part of this, and thank you to everybody who's been watching.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye bye,
Hey,
friends.
guys.
Bye.